From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
What's going down, y'all? You know the deal.
Wake up! Let's get after it, folks. It's Wake Up War Chant. It's a podcast. I'm Aslan. I'd like to say that I'm the chauffeur of the show. I'm not really the driver. Driver kind of insinuates that I have some sort of power, top billing. I basically just kind of float and go into the areas that Corey deems that we should go and float on in. He's Corey. That's the other guy. Corey, what's up?
What's up, buddy? I'm doing well. Not that you asked or cared, but I am. If you're the chauffeur, then that means I'm the dude in the back with the ladies and the champagne.
Yeah. Sounds accurate.
That seems about right. That's pretty accurate, actually. Pretty accurate description of what goes on here.
Before we get too far into the show today, just to give you folks a reminder that on Tuesday night, none other than Gene Williams and Michael Langston will be speaking at Whiskey Jack's over in Bay Meadows in Jacksonville. Michael and Gene will give an update on the team and the coaching situations, as well as a rundown of the 2019 recruiting class. Check it out, though, Corey. The cost, free. Food and tasty beverages available for purchase. The social starts at 5:30. Again, Whiskey Jack's over Bay Meadows. Check it out, everybody. Gene Williams, Michael Langston, the War Chant fam representing.
Tell them how much, if you do go, people that listen in Jacksonville and you do go, tell them how much you love this show.
Yes, please.
And how Gene needs to do whatever he can to keep it on air for all time. And also ask him to sum up the quarterback recruiting.
Yeah.
What they thought of that.
I was going to ask a terrible rhetorical question, but since you said that, I wasn't going to because it was terrible, but then since you mentioned quarterbacks, I kind of figured I would. We'll get to basketball here in a second, not to gloss over what they accomplished on Saturday. It was an incredible victory over Louisville. You know, this whole we're changing the culture thing, they're 3-star guys, we'll develop them. Like, does this feel almost like, I don't know, like Willie just keeps, like, I don't want to say doubling down, and I'm not going to say doubling down because I just said I don't want to say doubling down. But it just feels like at any sort of turn, we're kind of going like an unconventional route to get back. You know, maybe going outside the norm and clunking down a lot of money to get an offensive coordinator of the caliber of Kendall Briles, trying to rebuild this thing with 3-star guys, 4-star guys. Again, these weren't plan A, but you have to get what you can get. If he's like, you know, goes 7-5, 7-5, you know, wins a bowl game one year, doesn't win a bowl game in 2020, will it be sort of, well, let's let these kids sort of develop, or you know, Willie missed out on his sort of belief that these kids were going to change a culture, or is it going to be the sort of fact that, you know, well, hey, you need top flight athletes to get this thing turned around. So it's not so much if he does get it turned around. Rather, I'm sorry, Corey, I'm doing a horrible job of asking a horribly worded rhetorical question. Will it just sort of be like everything's hinging on can he evaluate talent right? Because if these guys work out, and it's like, look at him, man. He just made chicken salad out of 3- and 4-star guys. But if it doesn't work out, will it be, well, they were 3- and 4-star guys. What do you expect the guy to do?
So is that the question?
Yeah. I think so. I'm sticking with that one.
Okay. It's a tough one to follow along. Yeah, you know, and I will say this, man. On the defensive side of the ball, they got legitimate dudes that a lot of people wanted. Secondary, linebackers, the defensive line. Then the kid that ended up signing on this past signing day, wasn't Alabama on him? Was it Fuller?
Yeah, Quayshawn
Fuller.
Yeah.
So they got in the DBs, a lot of schools wanted these DBs. So it's not like they were just scraping the bottom of a barrel. I think on offense, you know, they did get some guys. I think when they say we want guys that want to be here, it's guys that were committed. There were big time players that were committed and stayed committed, even when they saw the product on the field.
Yeah,
you know that they still stayed true to what they believed that Willie Taggart their belief that Willie Taggart is going to turn this thing around, and they really want to come play for Florida State, and weren't scared off by a 5-7 record. I think on the offensive side of the ball, man, you got to take what you can get, and you know when you look like that, you realize they rushed for like 1,050 yards last year as a team.
It's not
a team. I mean, there must have been. What would you get? I'm going to say there were 49 players in Division I football that rushed for more yards than Florida State did as a team.
How many?
49?
All right.
Wouldn't you think like at least almost half of the Division I schools would have a 1,000-yard rusher?
What was Florida State's number again?
Oh, I don't know. It was in the thousands, like 1,063 or something.
All right, let's put
This is a fun little game we get to play on podcast.
Lexington Thomas from UNLV. Stop talking, Corey. Lexington Thomas from UNLV, 1,067 yards. He was 46th in the nation.
Well, there you go. So there we had about 45 kids. The kid from UNLV ran for as many yards as the entire Florida State football team. Those numbers are so bad, and the product looked so bad for so much of the season, you can understand why it would be hard to entice any offensive player to come here. And it was. It was. I almost said quite frankly, but I caught it. What are you going to say now, Shanna? Nothing.
Take
what
that.
What you say now?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So I do think that when you see this season, and my man Kendall Briles is throwing up 44 points per game, woo, they're going to be coming out of the woodwork to play at Florida State.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Or not. It's hard to say. The offensive line still might be the offensive line, and they might struggle to score 22 points a game again. But still, I mean, they were one of the worst. They were like 111th in scoring offense, 117th in total offense, maybe dead last or close to dead last in rushing. I mean, just the numbers were terrible. And it's hard to sell that, and that's understood. You got to hope in year two that it takes off offensively a little bit. You start getting better players, and you have that baseline and that foundation of a roster. At least half of it is Willie Taggart guys that believe in Willie Taggart. And again, that's where you hope the culture slowly starts to change.
And see, I like that you mentioned this because I had this sort of weird inkling. I'm going to do something positive at some point this week, I promise people. But this is going to be my sort of skeptical take for the week. And it'll just be my one lone skeptical take. I started wondering about a lot of these kids coming on visits, what happened after the visits. And it kind of dovetails into the fact that people of my ilk, if I were still a fan and just a member of warchant.com and used the promo code warchant30 to get 30 free days of access and then ended up being a subscriber for the rest of my natural-born life, we're getting a lot of blowback from people about it's our fault. If you're a negative fan, if you don't like 5 and 7, if it upsets you, if you go on the boards and you find a lot of things that you disliked and you voice that, you're the problem. You've created this negative vibe around Florida State. Johnny, Susie, and Nick have all spoke to a mom or a dad of some recruit that's not coming to Florida State because you, negative guy, because of you, Panic Pete Jr., because you go on Word Chant and you say all these bad things about Willie and the program and they don't want to come here. It's all your fault. And I understand how that can affect some kids. I don't think it's a big cause. I'm sure it might kind of fix somewhere into the mixture there. But 9 kids officially visited for the Virginia Tech game, Michael. Of those 5, 4 were already committed. Do you want to guess what happened to the other 5 that were not committed? Whether they came, you want to give me out of the 5 that weren't committed that came to officially visit Florida State, how many of them wound up coming to Florida State?
So they had 9 visitors for that? Wasn't that a Monday night game?
Yes.
Come on, don't they have school the next day? What's going on, guys?
They had 10 in total, but one of them's class of 2020, so it's too soon to call that one, obviously.
I would guess none of them came.
Correct. Okay.
Did any of them almost come?
Nah, I don't. I mean, maybe.
So who were the ones that were there that came? All
right. So Maurice Goolsby, Curtis Fan Jr., Kalen DeLoach, Renardo Green were already committed to Florida State, and they came on a visit. Tyler Davis came on a visit. He was on commit watch. We actually thought he was going to come here and commit. Did not. Derek Hall, linebacker out of Mississippi, did not. Auburn. Will Putnam, 4-star offensive lineman out of Tampa Plant, did not. Clemson. Tresman Marshall, linebacker, 4-star. He did not. I think Georgia. And then Kayvon Thibodeau, which I won't, it's the number one guy, or he was the number one guy in some lists at certain points. But Kayvon Thibodeau, 5-star defensive end out of California, did not. Went to Oregon. I'm not going to do this for every single one of these because it takes too much math. But other really than almost Raymond Woody III, anytime that Florida State had a game, had a Virginia Tech game, had a Clemson game, had a Florida game at home, and they had uncommitted guys on campus, those guys did not commit. So I find it very, not discouraging. I find it very annoying that this whole, like the fan base now, this small vocal minority of people who are really not happy about the direction of the program that complain about it all the time, which, listen, it does get, at a certain point, like when you start just going into random threads just to be a jerk, like you're a jerk. But when you're trying to find bright sides of things that are really grasping for straws, and these guys show up and say what they got to say, and then they get dismissed, like, you're part of the problem, is annoying. Because, I don't know, I mean, I think maybe showing up and watching the Virginia Tech game, seeing the way the Florida game played out, seeing the way the Clemson game played out, probably has more of an effect of where you're going to go to school than the people on the small corner of the internet at warchant.com.
100%. All fan bases have those negative people. Again, the problem in 2019 is recruits, parents, players, coaches, they're all exposed to it. So it might be, 2% of the Florida State fan base is in that camp where they just loathe Willie Taggart and want him gone. It's probably a little higher than that. Loathe might be a strong word because, again, he is a very likable person. Loathe what he brought to the program, let's put it that way. But they're the ones that are the most vocal. That's always the case. That's just how it is. It's always how it is. I'm telling you, I've been doing Seminole headlines for 8 or 9 years now, and we have the headliner questions. When they beat somebody 40-10, it's probably 30 questions. When they lose to Louisville 63-10, it's 70 or 80. That's just how sports fandom works. But I think, it's certainly not the fans' fault or the media's fault. When you go 5-7, that's the negative. There is going to be negativity. That's just how it works. There are miserable people. There are people in this world, and we've all run into them. And young people, you are going to be able to pick them out very quickly as you grow older. They just can't be happy about anything. And if they're upset about something, they want everybody around them to be upset. And they want to urinate on pancakes. They want to do everything they can to upset you, to make you as miserable as them. Rise above it. Rise above it. Like I have to do a show. You're not going to believe this. I have to do a show with one of the most negative Florida State fans in history. But you know what I do? I rise above it. Yeah. I don't let him pee on my pancakes. Yeah, I move my pancakes and he splatters it on the table. Yeah. That's how I roll, folks. That's how you got to roll. That's how these recruits and their parents have to roll. Yeah, every fan base has negative fans, especially when you're 5-7 and you get trashed by almost anyone with a pulse. I get it. But don't judge the entire fan base by that, because there are people that still believe in Willie. I think a lot, and that's the thing. I think some of these people are actually actively rooting against Willie Taggart's success. Just like I'm convinced that there are some Florida State basketball fans that root against the basketball team's success because they would rather be right about their Leonard Hamilton takes than they would be to see their team succeed.
Those people are the worst. Those people are the worst. Yeah, those people, Corey, for sure are the worst. Listen, I mean, even if you're not a big fan of what Willie Taggart has done to the program, if you don't like the way things feel around the program nowadays, or who could feel like that?
Come on.
Listen, the easiest path to get back Florida State to the top is for Willie Taggart to work. Like the path of least resistance is Willie Taggart being everything everyone thought he could be at the end of December in 2017. Like having to blow this thing up and start all over again is going to be painful. So, like, yeah, if you're rooting him for, like, we need to get rid of him now before it gets that much worse, like, no. Like, you need to hopefully hunker down and see something turn here soon. But at the same time, the people that are not optimistic about it, I don't think should be constantly sort of shamed, almost being kind of latently accused of being racist at certain times. Like I saw somebody post a thread that it was a total Yahtzee bingo on War Chant. Every single thing you get on there, they blame ACC refs. They blame the negativity of the fans. They pulled the Scott Frost card. How come Scott Frost ain't getting heat, huh? I know the difference between these two guys. Like, come on. I mean, there's differences of things that are going on. But, yeah, if you're actively rooting for Willie Taggart to fail, you are the worst type of – can you even really call it a fan? I'm not excusing that stuff. I am not of that behavior. I am not of that belief.
You aren't, buddy. You are. And I think you've gotten better as we've grown into the Willie Taggart era where you're kind of more comfortable in your skin and where you're at. I will say this, the thing about it is, like, what can be done now? Like, we got 8 months of nothing.
Yeah.
So what's the point? 7 months, I guess. So what's the point of constantly criticizing what we saw last year? We all saw it. We all know. Every Saturday I wrote was another critique of Willie Taggart and what the program was. But at some point, it's like it just seems like it would get monotonous and old.
Yeah.
Like, let's wait till we get some new information. If they lose to Boise State, release the hounds again, man. Turn the faucet back on. Yeah. But until then, let it be like a little trickle. You don't have to go, and I'm just talking specifically about people on Twitter or people in message boards. Every time somebody tries to find something positive about the team that they love and root for, you don't have to always be the voice of reason that jumps in and says, Willie Taggart's awful. Look how far we've fallen as a program. Yeah, everybody knows how far the program has fallen. Some people just blame Willie. Some people just blame Jimbo. Some people, the smart ones, it's a combination of both. But that doesn't mean that it has to be done every time. What kind of life is that to live?
Yeah. No, wait, the people that compare him, they're like, well, look at Saban's first year or Kirby's first year or Dabo. I'm sorry. You can aim your arrows and let it fly on those people. The ones that are like, listen, I think the offensive line is going to be a little bit better. I think Kendall Browse will do pretty good. I think, if they get a DB coach, help out Barnett a little bit, coach up the DBs, I think we'll be all right. Then we get 9
What's
wins
it matter?
in the schedule.
What's it matter? Willie Taggart's still the coach.
No,
this was a joke
bad.
of a hire.
That's bad. I think that's you got to be reasonable with all this stuff. But we're dealing with irrational people sometimes because they're fans and they love their program or what have you. Actually, my breath is kicking right now. This is a really weird side note. I was about to pop in a breath mint, Corey, but I don't want to get shamed again for eating during the show. So let me let you talk now.
Please don't. And we're not in the same room, so who cares?
Yeah. Talk about the basketball team, Corey. We were there on Saturday. Just following your Twitter feed, you seem to be pleased as punch to be covering that game.
Yeah, man, it was you watch that game, and I don't know how it'll end up in the NCAA tournament. Maybe they both get bounced the first weekend. Maybe they both make it to the Final Four. But those were two good teams. Like, Louisville, they had a nice lead. They shot the tar out of the ball. They were really impressive shooting. And then Florida State makes a run, ties it up, or gets within one, and then they would always hit a three. Like, it was a lot like the Florida State-Syracuse game, I thought, where they always seemed to have an answer until the very end there, where Florida State just, they made all their free throws, number one. Louisville missed some shots and yada, yada. But I just thought it was two really good teams that played really hard. And that, that's fun to watch, man. And, I think both those teams are Sweet 16 type teams for sure if they get the right matchups and play well and, don't go 2 for 22 from three. I think both those teams can do some real damage, and it was a really competitive game. I liked that those guys went at Cabangeli like that. I liked that he went right back at him. And Trent Forrest kind of looked like Trent Forrest again. And Terrence Mann was really good. It was a really good game that I don't know that Florida State probably should have won. I thought Louisville kind of gave it away there maybe, but Florida State did go and take it, and they played defense. And I think there was a moment where I think Nichols went in the lane and got fouled. He made a really nice drive and just somehow missed the layup but got fouled. And I was like, man, these guys, David Nichols is like he was probably the 11th best player in that game. And David Nichols is a good little player. Like, just it was pretty eye-opening to see how good both these teams are.
Here's the cool thing. I'm going to be a little bit to see Cabangeli, like, this is, and I'm going to say this poor kid's going to probably end up going like 2 for 9 against Wake Forest. Hopefully it won't cost Florida State the game. But just to see him week by week grow and get better, and that this isn't some sort of flash in the pan thing. Not that I don't think a lot of people thought that, but basketball obviously is such an ebb and flow, streaky kind of thing. But just to see him continually like rising to the occasion, I know maybe a lot of folks aren't totally invested in the basketball team. Start becoming so. I think the next 2 months are going to be quite fun.
Yeah, man, awesome. He's as good as they've had here in a good long while. We'll see how his career ends up, or if he's even here next year. But if he was here next year, he'd be a preseason All-ACC guy. He's got the entire package, and he's gotten so much better in a short amount of time. I heard Stan Jones on a podcast, and I can't remember the name of it. Stan Jones is the longtime assistant for Leonard on the basketball team. The associate head coach. Not that he'd be the longtime assistant for Leonard on the swimming team. That was a weird distinction to make. But he was on a podcast, and he said that he was working out. What he does, he works out the redshirting guys are guys that don't play much. They'll work them out a couple hours before the game. In the game that they went up to Georgia Tech and lost by 30 2 years ago with Isaac, after they'd beaten all those top 10 teams in a row, before the game, he's working out Cabangeli. He told this story on this podcast, and he was working out Cabangeli, and one of the coaches from Georgia Tech is like, "Can this kid play in our league?" Like, just didn't see it. And now to see where he is 2 years later, where not only can he not play, but Boeheim's saying he's as good as anyone in the league. And again, that's not true because of what's at Duke, but it's it's close. I mean, he just has it all, man. And I thought a really good sign, something to look forward to as we move on, is that Leonard did not take him out in the second half. He started the second half and played the entire game. And I know some people are upset as much as you can be with a team that's 18-5. Some people are upset that he doesn't start, but he started that half and he played the whole half, and again was Florida State's best player. But Mann and Forrest and MJ Walker was really big in the second half too for them.
I don't think anything is going to happen in the first 5 minutes of a game that he doesn't start that's going to affect Florida State from winning games that matter. I mean, my mind just keeps wandering about the fact that, first off, if you're in Minneapolis, Noel, give Corey and I some restaurant suggestions. We'll let Ira stay back and cover spring football. Because, there's just this whole we're going to win by committee thing. They didn't really win by committee on Saturday because they hunkered down with, what was it, Kofor, Forrest, Mann, Cabangeli, and Walker pretty much for the last, 15 minutes of that game going in overtime.
After Nichols fouled out, it was basically they just rode with 5 guys.
It's like if Cabangeli has a bad game and Mann has a bad game, it's hard to imagine that Nichols is going to shoot terribly, and so is MJ Walker, and so is Terrence Mann or Trent Forrest. There are just so many different pieces that can do different things, and they can win by so many different ways. I don't know, maybe when you get into the tournament, I don't know, maybe that stuff kind of goes out the window, but you just feel like, if you run into a hot shooting team, you run into a hot shooting team. But every single game, there's someone different that's been stepping up, but then they shortened the bench. They played, arguably their 5 best guys, and they dug themselves out of a tough hole against a really good Louisville team with a really good coach. It's hard to really, I don't want to tap brakes on things. Like why tap brakes on a basketball team that's, overachieving to a certain degree. I know they were an Elite 8 team last year, but there's just that belief around the program that, we'll see how it goes. People don't believe in Ham, and things get fluky in March. But, dude, I'm all in. I'm sold, man. I'm ready to go. I'm plotting out potential regional sites and where we go the second week of the season. Minneapolis, any sort of – maybe we'll go hang out at what is Prince's sort of estate called, the Purple Rain?
Oh, it's what is it? Paisley something?
Yeah, Paisley Park. Paisley Park.
Paisley Park. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna hang out at Paisley Park, take selfies out front of it. I'm all in. Let's do this.
It won't be too cold in April either, will it? Maybe the Twins are in town. We can go see a baseball game, American League baseball game. See some designated hitter. Yeah. It's good stuff, man. And I thought, and I wrote about it after the game. That what was really encouraging, or should be, is man, it's easy to win. It's easy to win when you shoot lights out from 3. When Florida State shoots 50% from 3. If they hit 10 or 11 or 12 threes and make most of them, man, they can beat and should beat anyone in the country. But now, they didn't shoot that well against Duke from the perimeter, and they're a missed free throw rebound away from winning that game. Even with R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish going crazy, if Phil Kofor can secure that rebound on the missed free throw, they win. Yeah. And then this game, they did not shoot well. Louisville did shoot extremely well, and they still found a way to win that game. Against a good team, man. Louisville's really impressive. They're long. They got guys that can shoot all over the floor. It was just that was, I thought Syracuse was their most impressive win because of just how they played from start to finish and showing the poise to come back after the lead had been trimmed to 1. But then this game, when you don't shoot particularly well, but you know what? You know what you did? You forced a bunch of turnovers and you made free throws. You showed you could win in different ways. You showed you could win with a rotation of basically 7 guys in the second half as opposed to 11. Those Terrence Mann, Trent Forrest, Cabangeli, they held up. They didn't seem to get too tired. It's just they are showing that they have a few different ways to beat you. Now, again, there's 8 games left in conference. They're not winning them all, and there'll probably be 1 or 2 just clunkers. That's just life in the college basketball. I was going to say life in the ACC like I'm Leonard Hamilton, but that's just college basketball. You're going to lose some games you shouldn't. You're going You're going to go 2 of 26 from 3, and the other team is unconscious, and you just can't find a way to win. But they've proven to themselves that when they play well, especially on the defensive end, they can hang with anybody. And if they shoot well, man, they could beat anyone in the country. Duke's the best team in the country. They just wore out Virginia at Virginia. They beat them for the second time in a row. Florida State, Florida State didn't shoot 60% from 3. They shot 32% from 3 in that game. Duke shot the best they had all season from 3 until this Virginia game. And Florida State was a missed rebound away from winning that game, even when they didn't play well. And I know it was at home, but the Leon County Civic Center crowd isn't worth 22 points. Although they were good. I thought they were good on Saturday, didn't you?
That was awesome. They came to life. I almost wanted to go all hyperbole on you. I can't remember the games I went to when I was an undergrad, but I was there when we beat Duke in North Carolina a few times, like in the Tim Pickett days, I want to say, and people would storm the court. But I was all the way up in the rafters. But there was a few moments where it got so intensely loud. It was amazing. It was a heck of a credit to the fans that were out there. I'm looking at the sites here. Like, as long as they stay out of, like, some of the regional sites are going to be Louisville, Anaheim, D.C., and Kansas City. Like, as long as they don't.
Okay, so what are the first 2 round sites? Isn't Jacksonville's one, right?
Yeah, Salt Lake, Des Moines, Tulsa, Columbus, Ohio, Columbia, South Carolina, San Jose. Yeah, those are it.
Okay, so we got Columbia. We're hoping for Columbia or Jacksonville.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So, as long as they don't wind, and I don't think South Carolina is going to, as long as they don't, like, wind up playing, like Duke in Columbia, that'll be really tough. Because, then it's like Duke pretty much has got a home
Well,
court.
they couldn't anyway. They wouldn't match. I don't think they'd match them up in the second round, 2 conference teams.
Right. So, because, I do think the home court is a big part of the reason why they do play so well, or they have although some of this stretch has obviously been on the road. The way they played in Syracuse I thought was huge, just because that was a hostile crowd. I know it's not like quintessential prime Boeheim, Syracuse Orange basketball, but to win on the road, that was huge.
But that team's good now. That Syracuse team is a tournament team, and they're 8-3. They won at Duke. But they didn't have one of the guys. They didn't have 2 of their guys, Reddish and Jones. But that's a good team. And they're 8-3. Louisville's 8-3. I thought the win at Clemson, or the win over Clemson, was a nice win. And then the way they shot at Miami, who really should have beaten North Carolina this weekend. It's nothing. We can't take anything for granted. You can't just chalk up wins. Even the Wake Forest win this week. It'd be a really good sign if they came out and hammered Wake Forest, just put it on them early and often, and won by 30, and got a lot of young guys a chance to play. But you can't assume that's going to happen.
ACC, brother. ACC, man, you got to bring your A game every time, every single time. Man.
It's the truth. But they're all winnable games from here on out. They aren't going to win them all, but they're all winnable games. And now you start looking, you're already at 18 wins. You get to 22, 23, 24 wins maybe, and you're looking at, I don't know, a 3 seed, a 4 seed. So yeah, it's a fun. But I will say this again, and I think I brought it up last week or whenever I did. When you talk about a culture. Again, watch those guys on that bench. PJ Savoy didn't score in that game.
It's awesome, yeah.
Phil Kofor didn't score. Now, he played a lot, but he didn't score in that game. Polite, Vassell, they didn't play. But watch them on the bench late in the game when Cabangeli's making big plays or Forrest is making big plays.
Yep.
They are all in. They are all smiles after a game. They are cheering. They are happy for each other because he makes sure that they get a chance when they have a chance. He gets them in the game. But also, that's just what's fostered in that program right now. It wasn't there. Well, they weren't. They just. I don't know. I don't want to rip on like the Monte Brandons and the Bojanovskis and Ojos of the world, but that class just was not talented enough. But they didn't seem to be this connected either. These guys really do. And again, I don't know what goes on in the locker room. I don't know if they're all calling each other punks in the locker room. But on the court, when they're playing, they really seem to like each other and like playing with each other. That's a big deal, man. That helps.
Florida State's last game of the season. Will we be praising MJ Walker, cursing MJ Walker, or both cursing and praising MJ Walker?
I think that's his deal, right? That's his lot in life. It's going to be a lot of, golly, MJ, what in the world was that? Hey, good shot.
Well, he had a take. He had a take in the second half that I'm sitting there next to Wayne McGahee from the Democrat, and Like you could tell the wheels were coming off of him, and it's like just dish the ball off. Don't take it to the rim, and he did. And I'm like, what is he doing? I'm like, why is he even in the game right now? And then I don't know, 45, 60 seconds later, he had like the layup, steal off the inbound, put back, and Wayne just kind of laughs like, that's why. And I'm like, oh yeah, we all saw that coming. But I guess at this point, maybe that is MJ's MO at this point.
Yeah, and he had some big shots in that game when they really needed it. When they were really in a drought, he had a couple of jumpers. He had a three. He did have a couple of nice drives for layups. He's young. Like, he didn't play a ton last year. We know his name because he's a 5-star. He's a McDonald's All-American. But I think he probably only averaged 14 or 15 minutes a game. He didn't start, I don't think. Maybe he did. I can't remember. It's hard to, who knows with Leonard. I know Trent Forrest didn't start last year, and Cabangeli doesn't start this year. But he's a young dude. And there are times where he just makes inexplicable plays. And he'll just drive into a dude, and you're like, man, can you not see that he's right there? Do you think he's going to disappear or turn into a puff of dust? Like, what? How did you think that play was going to go where you drive right into him and hold the ball out? That that the Division I athlete isn't going to take it from you or strip it away? But then he has games like he did at was it Miami?
Yeah.
And then the game, and, I thought he had a really good second half on Saturday. If he doesn't play like that, they don't win. And he does make it hard for opposing point guards, man. He can guard. And that's why he plays more, even with his offensive breakdown sometimes. He really does. When he's engaged, he's a really good defender, along with Trent Forrest. That's a tough deal for point guards to have to deal with. And you just hope that, he's got some confidence. I would hope that second half gave him some confidence because he did play well. It made winning plays when it mattered. And, moving forward, this guy's going to be a big part of the program for the next couple of years. You hope he figures that out. You're just going to have to, it's going to be some times where you're just like, oh, well, all right. Kind of like Luke Laux. Luke Laux was that kind of player sometimes. You're like, good Lord, Luke, what was that? Was that person open in the sixth row? Yeah. But then 2 plays later, he's making a great pass for a layup or hitting a three. I think MJ Walker will be that kind of guy. Good kid, though, and apparently a really good football player.
Yeah, never too late.
I'm just saying. I don't know if he can play quarterback or not, but
maybe we should have him watch that Dion documentary, get him a little inspired.
Yeah, man, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think he was a running back, maybe, but they could use all the help they can get on offense.
Yeah. 5 up and 5 down, meanwhile, for the defending national champion Florida State softball team, part of the Joanne Graff Classic. They took down UNC Wilmington, Iowa State twice. Actually, Wilmington twice, Iowa State twice, and then UNC Greenville. They surrendered 2 runs in the 5 games.
Come on, get it right.
What?
Greensboro.
Is it Greensboro?
Yeah, I don't think there's a UNC
you're right,
Greenville.
You're right. Sorry. I apologize. You're right. I didn't mean to get defensive when I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll wear it.
Thanks.
Are we going to Oklahoma City again? Let's do it. Let's book Let's book the tickets.
I feel like if I go to the Final Four, then we'll leave that. Ira likes Oklahoma City. He was there last time. He's obviously good luck.
Yeah.
So you guys will be – well, Ira will be in Oklahoma City. I'll be heading out to Omaha, and then you'll kind of go between the two.
Okay.
It can't be that far away from Oklahoma City to Omaha.
Nah. Piece of cake. I haven't pulled it up on the map, but piece of cake. So, yeah, shout out to the Lady Noles doing what they do. National champions again, 5 up, 5 down. They'll be going to Clearwater, Florida later this week as part of the St. Pete Clearwater Elite Invitational. They'll be taking on Ohio State, Oklahoma, LSU, Minnesota, FAU, Tennessee. You got to love softball is the one sport where I don't know how much of a difference there is between like high-level travel and collegiate ball. I mean, obviously you start working into a season schedule, but they'll do these like weekend tournaments where they're playing like 7 games in 2 days. It's amazing.
Yeah, and like 4 of the games or 5 of the games, the same pitcher will pitch.
Yeah.
Because there's no real stress on the arm with that delivery.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I like that. Like, it's crazy. I'll look up, like, because I'll be honest with you, I don't pay a ton of attention to the softball like day in and day out. But I'll check in every couple weeks, especially when Jessica Warren was there, or Jessie Warren. Sorry, Jessie. But your mama named you Jessica. I'm going to call you Jessica. And you were. It's also she was Jessica for like the first 3 years, so it's a hard habit to break to not call her that. But I would look up. I would want to go see how she was hitting, like in her junior year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, they've been at it for a couple weeks. They probably played a few games. Let's see what she's hitting. Oh, they're 19-2.
Yeah.
They played 21 games in like 2.5 weeks. I'm like, oh, good. And she's got 6 home runs. So that's always startling when you get into like early March and they played so many games. Yeah. But they're good. Good old Lonnie. Lonnie's going to keep it rolling. Apparently, they have a really good freshman class again, which shouldn't be a stunner.
Meanwhile, Florida State's women's basketball team split their last 2 road contests. They took down number 9 NC State and Raleigh, but fell to number 4 Notre Dame on Sunday. But they're chugging along. It's crazy. They were like 20-3 or something, and they were like ranked outside the top 20. Like how many elite teams are in women's basketball right now that if you're like 20-4 or whatever Florida State's women's basketball team is playing in the ACC, that you're not in the top 20? That's a rhetorical question, by the way, Corey. You don't have to give me a very thoughtful answer on it. I was just kind of throwing that out there. What I do want to ask you, though, and get a sincere answer is speak on this. What is going on? So Anthony Edwards, the number 1 prospect in the nation that we sort of been talking about here and there about Florida State having a shot at him, apparently was supposed to come visit, as we pivot back to men's basketball real quick, was supposed to come visit for the Louisville game, ends up not visiting. Sounds like he's going to Georgia. What are your people in Athens doing? What's the deal? What's going on?
I don't know, man. So I'm gonna be that guy that tweets salted about Anthony Edwards for probably the rest of his life. As long as I have a Twitter feed and as long as he's playing basketball, I'm always going to make fun of him picking Georgia. If that indeed proves to be the case, which you just follow the people, you follow the Georgia guys that are dialed in, and they surely seem confident that he's coming. So I did tweet out that. On Saturday, they got blown out at home by Ole Miss. So now they are 10-13 overall and 1-9 in the SEC. And I just tweeted out, hey, Georgia's now 1-9 in the SEC. Good luck, Anthony. And then did you see the quote that I tweeted out on Sunday?
Oh, yeah.
From Tom Crean? Yeah. I want to touch on the thing that happened after the game that I reported on, and then we'll be done with this show. So Tom Crean, for the people that don't know, he's the Georgia coach. It's his first year. They're terrible. They're 10-13. They're 1-9. Somehow, some way, without much of a relationship with the kid, at least not for years like the Florida State staff has. And I get it. It's a hometown type thing. He's, Anthony Edwards is a Georgia kid, so he lives about an hour away. But anyway, Tom Crean is the coach of Georgia, and apparently he's about to land Anthony Edwards, even though they're 10-13 and 1-9. So this was what Tom Crean said after the game, after they lost to Ole Miss in his first year to go 10-13 overall. He goes, it's all on me because I'm the one who decided to keep these guys. It's all on me, and I get it because the last thing I can do with making decisions on keeping guys in the program in the spring is now get overly mad at them because I'm the one who made the decision. So I live with that every day. And it doesn't mean that they're not great kids, but very few programs, when there's a takeover, okay, when you guys who haven't done it at any point really in their career, a lot of those guys, they move on. That's what happens when there's a job change, and I didn't do that. So basically, obviously, he threw his entire team under the bus, then backed up the bus, ran over him again, and then got out of the bus and started hitting him with a shovel. And that's who my man is going to go play for. Well, now, Tom Crean has had success. He did go to a Final Four with Dwayne Wade. That was when Dwayne Wade was still in college, and Indiana was ranked number 1 for a bit while he was at Indiana. He's a good coach, and I'm sure he's getting good players. It just you'd rather go play for that guy. You're telling me you'd rather go play for that guy in that program, in that building, in that conference, than go play for a team that is now 18-5 for Leonard Hamilton, who his kids love. And the Crump, there's one of their players on their team, his last name is Crump. His mom came out and just started ripping Tom Crean on Twitter. Like, that really, coach? That's what you're going to do? You're going to blame it all on the players? Like, ripping them on Twitter. Like, that's, that doesn't seem like a real harmonious place to play basketball. Anyway, so I'm salty about it. Good luck with that, Anthony. Maybe if y'all play really well and he gets a few good players, you can get to the NIT next year.
Maybe he wants to change a culture. Maybe he wants to be.
He's going to be there for 5 months.
Georgia wants people that want to be at Georgia, man. They need guys that want to be there. They want to turn this thing around and, want to get it back to where it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way I could be a college coach because you hear these stories, and like if I'm CY, if I'm Charlton Young or one of these assistants, and I've known this guy for 3 years, and I knew him before he was Mr. Super Duper Star, and we had a real relationship. And not only that, but my program is now one of the top 15 in America. You could say is an Elite 8 program that's now 18-5 and just beat Louisville in front of a packed house with a with fans that were actually into the game and really loud, and you're going to tell me you're not going to even visit because you want to go play for Tom Crean in Georgia? Fool, you crazy?
All right, tell Ira's story. This is way too long. Half of it's my fault for asking bad rhetorical questions about the football team.
Yeah, still, I've been trying to carry the show ever since you started us off on that. Yeah. I've tried to at least get it up to like a B-. Yeah. Well, you know the story. You tell it. You're better at storytelling than I am.
Well, you're the one that wanted to say it.
Well, I think it's a great story.
It is a great story. You say it. You're on a roll right now.
All right, sure.
Energy,
okay.
Juice.
So after the game, I was back in the back, doing work. I don't know what Ira was doing, but he was sitting at courtside, obviously finishing up a quick story, and a man, I guess, started complaining about chest pains, and then fell to the floor or was pushed to the floor by a cop, a police officer, who realized that he was in real danger. Like he was in real danger of losing his life. And so the police officer, I think, calls for help. Some paramedics come, and they start doing chest compressions. And they get the oxygen. Like people are rushing all around the Civic Center trying to get this guy to not die on the floor. And chest compressions are being done. Oxygen's being done. People are milling around. They're running around, getting a stretcher, getting the ambulance ready. And then my man comes to, gets out of whatever shook him up, sits up. There's like 100, 150 people still in the arena that are watching this. And, of course, they're petrified. And I was thinking of that. Like, if you were in the crowd and you saw that happen, I guess you'd have to stay, right? It'd be kind of rude to just walk out in that moment. Well,
if I had a young son, 5, 6 years old, I probably would leave. If I was by myself, I'd watch it to the end.
Yeah, but also I think it'd be like, you're right, with the kid involved, you wouldn't want him to see somebody die. But I also think it'd be disrespectful if you like just, oh, well, I don't care about this, I'm walking out.
Right.
Where y'all want to go eat tonight? Like, you almost have to stay and hope everything's okay. But anyway, so the guy, after a few minutes of all that, sits up and then does the chop.
Yeah.
And everybody cheers. It was like Rod Tidwell.
Yeah.
Waking up in the end zone. I mean, he didn't quite do that. He didn't jump into the crowd and start, high-fiving everyone. And then they got him on a stretcher. And then the follow-up to that is Ira tweeted about it, and it went crazy viral because he has a lot of followers for some reason. And got like thousands and thousands of likes and retweets. And the guy's son tweeted at Ira and said, "That's my dad."
Yeah.
And then they also posted, him and his best friend posted on War Chant on Sunday. Another reason you should be on War Chant, folks.
Why aren't you people? Come on.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You can get the columns that I write and Ira writes. You can get Aslan's video and his witticisms. And also you get updates from people that almost died on the court. So his son and his best friend and his son's best friend came on and said that he was having some minor heart procedures on Sunday, but that everything looked like it was going to be okay, and they hoped to get him out of the hospital very soon, and it wasn't as life-threatening. He didn't pass away, let's just put it that way, and things seemed to work out. I just thought that was a really cool, what a crazy scene that is. For the guy to sit up and do the chop, that's after seeing who knows what kind of lights he was seeing. If he was floating to one or whatever was going on, and for him to sit up and do the chop is one of the more remarkable things I've ever heard.
Maybe he heard the war chant being played like on harps at the pearly gates, and he's like, "Not yet, unconquered." Bam.
Yeah. Well, and somebody pointed out, Ira brought it up in the post on War Chant, like it probably saved his life that they went to overtime.
Yeah.
Because if that would have happened walking out, or if that had happened on the way to in the car, then that's going to be a tough one. So I guess fun's not the right word, but a really interesting kind of pick me up there story that you want to talk about a Florida State fan? Holy moly!
Yeah, love each other. All right, folks. Again, don't forget if you're in the Jacksonville, Duval area, Michael Langston, Gene Williams will be at Whiskey Jack's over in the Bay Meadows part of town on Tuesday. The social starts at 5:30. The cost to attend is absolutely free. There will be some food and beverages, but you got to pay for that. But you're all there for the knowledge. Get the knowledge from Gene and Michael. Tell them that you listen to the show all the time and that you love Corey and you deal with me. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Have a great one, everybody. We'll catch up with you later on the week. We're probably not going daily this time. because we don't want to ramble for 50 minutes about me asking dumb rhetorical questions. Have a great one.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.